Types of epidemiological investigation. Whatever the disease being studied and the population concerned, epidemiological investigation consists of series of phases whose ultimate goal is control or eradication of disease. Epidemiology and preventive veterinary medicine are not clearly demarcated, and epidemiology provides some useful information for designing and implementation of control activities. There are four different stages of epidemiological investigation and disease control, and are commonly called types of epidemiology. These types are descriptive, analytical, operational, and epidemiological evaluation. Special type of epidemiology is theoretical epidemiology, which use mathematical or computer models that attempt to simulate the natural patterns of disease occurrence. As it uses theoretical and not real data, it's not listed as a type of epidemiological investigation in operational terms. The first phase is descriptive epidemiology. The objective of the descriptive epidemiology is to obtain understanding of disease characteristic in time and space. It attempts to answer the questions who, what, where, and when. For example, in case of any disease occurrence, it's important to understand and to find out who is affected, whether this is one species or more species, whether disease is zoonotic or not. The next question is what causes the disease, whether it's virus, bacteria, whether it's monofactorial or multifactorial disease, and so on. The third question is where did disease occurred, whether it's limited or restricted area of the country, or it's distributed all around the country. And also it's important to know when the disease occurred in order to design and implement appropriate control measures. So this fourth question, and the first question, is applied for description of disease in single animals, to also the multi-country surveys on control programs, such as control and eradication of rabies in Europe. Most reports of routine population data, including variants of prevalence of and incidence of disease in different geographical areas, and changing rates of disease over time, also came under descriptive epidemiology. The observation are main methods which is used in descriptive epidemiology, and are sometimes partly subjective, but as observation in other scientific disciplines may generate the development of hypotheses which can be later challenged or tested. So, for example, the Darwin theory of evolution was pretty much subjective, but it was enough to develop hypothesis which was challenged over time, but it has survived to present days. Analytical epidemiology is the analysis of observations from the descriptive epidemiology using adequate diagnostic and statistical tools. The main question which has to be answered is why the disease occurred. So it's often difficult, and sometimes the epidemiological investigation do not give the required results. In other words, it will remain unknown why the disease occurred, whether the disease was introduced from some other geographical area, whether it's reoccurrence of disease, so disease was hidden in some reservoir and so on. So furthermore, it's important to identify if the disease in question is transmissible or not, or whether it's caused or mono or multifactorial. In case of monofactorial diseases, when the nature of disease is well known, it's important to investigate its sources, hosts, and the mode of transmission. For multifactorial disease, it's necessary to make use of hypotheses derived from the descriptive epidemiology. After identifying these factors, it's important to demonstrate causal relationship between the presumptive risk factors and the disease occurrence. Operational epidemiology. The information obtained from descriptive and analytical epidemiology is applied under operational epidemiology in order to design and implement control measures against targeted disease. Those control activities include prevention, control, and eradication of the disease. Disease control activities has to be well designed from both biologic and economic point of view, and have to be dynamic in order to be able to changing according to the requirements. For example, in case of changing of disease frequency, changes of economic, socioeconomic or political circumstances on the field and so on. There are 4 general phases of disease control programs, especially if the main goal is eradication of disease. Those 4 phases are preparatory phase, implementation phase, consolidation phase, and follow-up phase. Preparatory phase, in this phase, the planning of all necessary financial, technical, and human resources is carried out, which includes estimation of cost, estimation of population of interest, training of staff involved, publicity campaign, administration staff involved, and so on. Implementation phase, in this phase the activities against the targeted disease starts. The nature of chosen activities depends of the nature of disease, the method used. If we planned to carry out mass vaccination, slaughtering and test and slaughtering or control of vectors, and also the social, political, geographical, and economic constraints for implementation of the activities. The third phase is consolidation phase. It starts after the main goal of the control activities, control programs have been achieved. This phase is characterized by intensive surveillance for remaining positive cases and tracing of all other animals which have contact with those positive cases. The quality of disease detection is of paramount importance in this phase, which means that diagnostic tests should aim to better specificity in order to find out and eliminate all positive cases from the flock. The fourth phase is the follow-up phase, or the final phase of the disease control or eradication program, and it provides all necessary measures to prevent disease from re-emergence of reintroduction. The control measures include implementation of administrative measures such control of movement, early detection, and early warning systems. This is highly important in order to avoid wasting of time, money, and effort spending in the previous 3 phases. Experimental epidemiology is a branch of operational epidemiology, which observes and analyzes the data from the groups of animals with selection and altering of the factors associated with one group, which means that we are checking and controlling and changing the risk factor associated with disease occurrence in one group, and we are observing how the changes in the risk factor are reflecting in the changing of the disease occurrence. The well-known experimental epidemiology example is the lung cancer incidence in smokers and non-smokers control group. Epidemiological evaluation is the last phase of the disease control program, and it's enabled to assess the results of the control program that has been implemented. It provides the information necessary to manage the applied control efforts as the current circumstances demands, and to analyze the outcome of the control program in terms of the costs and the benefits. In other words, the last phase is showing us whether the control program was successful, partly successful, or unsuccessful.